Oh, do we have already? Get him out. Get him out. Get him out. That was quick. That was quick.
It was the beginning of the end. 4 horsemen of the political apocalypse seen riding over the Missouri hills. Their zombie steeds breathing smoke, belching fire that when exhaled each time rose into the air, formed the words so many had been yearning to see, the end of Trump. And there was a restless peace among some of the population as they settled back, secure in the knowledge their desires had been met by fate and the Missouri voters. But wait. We find ourselves in the Empire State. The zombie figure of Donald Trump rises, bellowing laughter from those who defied and refused to believe, standing on the brink of resurrection and a resumption of complete and utter control. So then, business as usual. Okay. Let us start this edition of The Political Animal there. Former director of FEMA, now reaching into the hearts and minds of those along the Rockies. 6:30 KHOW in Denver, weekday afternoons. Michael Brown, joined by the senior political contributor at Forbes, co-host of Steele and Ungar, weekday evenings on Sirius XM POTUS 124, Rick Ungar. Let's begin there. So, Michael, what happened?
Well, we went through a regular process. Trump won some, Trump lost some. That's going to look, Trump's going to have a good week or two, and then Cruz is going to have a good week or two, and eventually we'll get to July, and we'll be talking about what we won't be talking about is what's happened over the past 3 or 4 months. We'll be in July, and that'll be the focus. It's just the silly season.
Okay, let's talk silly season then, Mr. Ungar, because then we hear the Democrats now fretting over Bernie Sanders. He's going to defeat Hillary. My God, stop the presses, man, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Come on, are the Dems just really fretting over nothing here at the end of the day?
Well, so it seems. I mean, it's virtually impossible to me to see how Bernie can overcome Hillary's vote count lead. He just can't do it. I mean, there may be some surprises in store. Who knows? Maybe a surprise in New York, although I certainly would not bet money on it. But it's just impossible to see how he overtakes her. Look, he's done a great job. He's a cool guy. But he's not going to win the Democratic nomination.
Is he perhaps, though, changing what the platform will be if, indeed, Hillary Clinton becomes the nominee?
He absolutely is. Not only what the platform will be, but what you're seeing happening. And nobody's really covering it because everybody is so entranced with what's happening on the Republican side. You are seeing a massive move to the left by the Democratic Party. You really are. Look, Hillary will be their nominee, but their new leader, it won't be Bernie. It'll be Elizabeth Warren. And it's going to go much more to the left. Somebody like me, who's more of a centrist left, probably will not fit all that comfortably into the Democratic Party of the next few years. There's definitely a change going on.
Michael, let's talk about that move, if you will, because Rush Limbaugh recently said that the Republican establishment, the ruling class, as he calls it, and quite frankly, I don't know if 99.9% of the people know exactly what that means, talks about the Republican establishment voting for Hillary Clinton if that means holding on to their fiefdoms. You go for that?
I really don't. Now, do I think there are some Republican establishment leaders who will do that? Yes, I do. But I think generally that's not true. Look, I read the article that was in Politico, and Politico talks about the Republican establishment stands for things like lower taxes, a less intrusive regulatory framework, smaller government. And I'm thinking to myself, that is conservatism. And the problem is the Republican establishment has woefully failed to deliver on a lot of those things. And that's the source of the divide.
When you talk about the political article, it was entitled How GOP Intellectuals Feud with the Base is Remaking U.S. Politics. And I read this, and I think it's fascinating, but it talks about how perhaps, Michael, the GOP spent way too much time and too many years going after the intellectuals. They failed to look at the middle class. They didn't look at everybody else instead of just the really smart guys in the think tanks. It does make sense, does it not?
It makes absolute sense. And they also failed to translate into everyday speak how the idea of smaller government, less taxes and everything means more liberty and freedom for individuals. And that translates into a growing economy, more taxpayers and growth. Look, we're puddling along here at what, 1 or 2% growth? Let's get back to the days of 5, 6, 7% growth. And they have failed to give that message to the middle class.
And Rick, they even talked about in that article how people like Richard Nixon and others, they used people who were Democrats, became Republicans, but they reached across aisles here. They got people to work with them here, and they were smart in doing it, even to the point where they convinced Democrats that the Democrats had to start looking into think tanks and starting to create their own intelligentsia, if you will. So there's a lot of truth in what's happening on both sides and how both sides are about to change.
But that article, I got to say, missed a very critical point. You know how a broken clock is right twice a day? Well, I'm that broken clock. Every now and then I get right. And I was right about this a couple of years back when the Tea Party formed. And instead of going the route of your typical party, do the hard work to get yourself on the ballots and make yourself a real party, when they decided to take the easy way and throw in with the Republicans, and when the Republicans decided to take them, the die was cast on exactly what you're seeing now. It was completely predictable that this schism would come to light. We've been seeing it in Congress for the past couple of years. It just reached a presidential election.
Haven't we reached the point then, Rick, where now, and I only got 10 seconds for you here, but we have to realize expediency doesn't work when it comes to politics. You can't just jump in the pool and make an immediate change. You've got to do the hard work.
That's it. And the Tea Party chose not to do that. They took the easy way out by joining with the Republicans, and the Republicans let them in, taking the easy way out to get the numbers, and now they're all suffering.
Mike, 10 seconds to you. It's what's happening with the Republican Party now. They're going to have to do the hard work.
They do have to do the hard work, and those who are true conservatives and are running are going to have to convince the electorate that when they say something during the campaign, they will actually go to Washington and stand up for that, even if it means losing an election. We need some statesmen on the Republican side, and I don't see but a handful.
And we will do the hard work here every single week with the guys who make a lot of sense. And we didn't get Ungar to say he was going to become a Republican this week. Rick Ungar, Michael Brown, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. Hey, how about talk of cyanide use on the campaign trail? Coming up next.